Hey everyone, thanks for joining me today. So if there's one thing about our world that we know, it's that everybody has an opinion. And I think intuitively we know that not all opinions are created equal. Like for example, have you ever been talking with somebody who is just so absolutely certain that they're right? Yet when you ask them how or why they know that, they don't really have an answer. So today I wanted to try to identify kind of these 6 main argument styles that I see. And of course, this is not an exhaustive list. These are just sort of 6 things that I see commonly. The world is so full of noise. I think it's really important that we learn how to kind of cut through that noise and determine who we can trust. So let's get to it. So the first type of opinionated person that you might have come across, I'm going to call the confidently clueless. So these people often have a lot of facts and they want to share them with you. And they're trying to convince you, right? Like they're trying to get you over to their team. However, when you ask them, oh, where did you hear that? Or why do you think that? A lot of these facts, they don't have sources. And they've often just heard them. So like maybe they heard them from a friend and now they're just repeating it. Or they saw a headline somewhere, or they heard it in a podcast, or maybe they read a book one time and they can't really remember where, or they can't remember the name of the book, but they now have this information and they expect you to treat it as true. The problem with this type of person I find is that if you don't immediately accept their fact as true and instead maybe ask a couple questions about how they know this and are you confident in this fact? They often get a little defensive and upset that you're kind of, questioning their intelligence. And that's unfortunate, right? Because you're not really questioning their intelligence. You're just trying to, verify the information. All right, so the second type of person I want to call the moral crusaders. And these people kind of frame everything as a moral argument rather than something that's, evidence or fact-based. So it's like, well, why do you have that opinion? Why do you think that? And it's often this it's based on this ethical framework that they define. They are the arbitrator of morality. And the biggest problem I find with these moral crusaders is that they use shame and guilt to kind of get you on board, right? It's like, well, you're a piece of trash if you don't believe in this obviously moral thing. I think the big problem with ethics and morals that maybe a lot of people don't realize is that, we're all raised in different ways. And many of these things are kind of, put into us at a very young age. And it almost becomes a type of common sense for us. And when 2 different people who are raised in different ways, maybe they were raised in different cultures, come together, it's like sometimes they can sort of have different base common sense. And these 2 moralists, they really can't convince each other because they don't have anything other than this is right, this is wrong, you're a piece of trash kind of argument. So you'll often find too that these moral crusaders, they often don't do anything. Like it's not like they have a lot of action, but they have a lot of opinions and they might post a lot about it. And it's sort of like there's just a lot of judgment. It's like on every new political issue, they've got their opinion and it's like there's not a lot of understanding for the other side. There's not really any feeling of, mediation. It's usually they are correct. They obviously have the moral high ground and you need to listen to them. So the third type of person you might encounter, I'm calling the hidden truth hunters. And these people are always looking for that hidden truth. And so as a result, they really latch onto conspiracy theories a lot, and they like to let everybody else know about all the things that are actually going on in the world. The problem with these types of people, and I'm kind of including myself in this, right? Because I am a person who's often looking under the surface of things. I'm looking for that subtext. And the reality is that sometimes there are conspiracies. So that's the other part about this. But I think these people, they take it too far. They never want to adopt any kind of mainstream narrative. And it's almost like it's part of their identity to always find that other angle. In the worst case, these people are believing things to be true when there's just absolutely no evidence for it. They just want it to be true. It's sort of like well, you'll see, right? It's like, you'll see, I've done all the research, and if you did your research, you would also see it as true. You just haven't done your research yet. And then when you ask them, okay, well, what research should I do? Where should I read? It's unclear, right? So yeah, that's the thing. If somebody doesn't have good reasons for their opinions, then I personally think that you can safely dismiss them. So the fourth type of person you might encounter that's trying to convince you of something is called the experience enthusiast. And these are people that basically form all their opinions from personal experience. So to these people, anecdotal evidence is king. They don't really understand that you need to collect a broad body of data to make a conclusion. It's usually one example. Like, let's say they had a cold, now they drank some water mixed with honey and cayenne pepper, and now in the next person that has a cold, they say, well, all you have to do is drink some hot water with cayenne and honey, and that cold will be cleared up right away. And my point isn't to say that cayenne pepper and honey can't help a cold. That's not what I mean. My point is that you can't make any kind of conclusion from a single event. It's basically a false cause fallacy because you can't assume that one thing that you happened to do in the day before your cold got better was the cause of your cold going away. The reality is you did lots of things that day, and now you're kind of cherry picking which thing you did. So just like the others, when you actually ask this person, well, do you have any other, evidence for your claim? They often don't, and then, they usually end up getting defensive. The real use of anecdotal evidence is sort of a starting point for further examination. It's sort of like a theory, right? It's like, I wonder if that's true. And now you can go out there and try to figure it out. But a lot of people don't do that work. They just stop at that point and accept it as truth. So the next type are the crowd conformists. And I feel like this one's pretty straightforward, but these are the people that really don't have their own opinions. All they do is adopt the opinions and ideas of their group. So maybe it's a political group, and they don't really think for themselves. They just accept that as the best thing. Or it could be religion, or it could be anything, really. It could be the field in which you study. So it's like, all my colleagues believe this, therefore I believe this. Or my industry has this as its official position, therefore this is my official position. I think a lot of people actually really struggle with this. It's something that I have never struggled with. And to be honest, I'm always getting in trouble for this because it's sort of like, hey, aren't you with us? Aren't you part of our group? Well, then why aren't you doing, what we expect of you? That's been a constant problem my whole life. And as a result, I'm often off in my own group. Like this side thinks I'm on this side, but this side thinks I'm over here. It happens a lot in politics, actually. I find that I don't really fit into any one political party. And I think that's very confusing to a lot of people, especially the crowd conformist type who is like planted right inside one, and they don't understand the concept of thinking for themselves. So if you come along and ask one of these people why they think that or why they have that opinion, the reality is they have no idea why they think that. It's just, well, people smarter than me have decided that this is the truth, therefore I will adopt it. Sometimes with these people, if you're gentle, you can try to educate them a little bit. But I know it's confusing for them because they don't want to leave their tribe. They're comfortable in that tribe. So it's a really awkward situation. So the sixth and last group is the rational evidence builders. And these are the true rare gems in our world today. And I like to hope that sometimes I'm in this group. And I think that's the reality, is we probably all do a little bit of all these things. And that's the struggle, is we need to work our way into this group. And these are the people that look at the evidence, they look at the data, and they use their logic to come to conclusions. And the key with these people is they're actually excited to answer the question of how do you know that, or why do you think that? They like to explain themselves. And that's really the difference between this group and all the others, is the others don't like why questions. So if you encounter a person who just never wants to answer the why question, I feel like that's a bit of a red flag. People who are based in some kind of rationality love to answer why. Like I said, I think we all dip our toes into these various groups at various times, but the end goal, at least for myself, is to slowly, rid myself of those first five to get into this sort of more rational state for my life and just have opinions that are based on the evidence. Simple as that. So thanks for joining me today. If you have any questions, feel free to throw them down below, or if you can think of any other types, actually. I thought of these 6, and I'm sure there are more. So if you have any others, throw them in the comments and people can read those. But otherwise, I hope you have a great day. Thanks for joining me.